Hey, what's up everybody? We're back again, video number 9. This one is called Further Explanation of the Babylon Cipher, the Cult of Babylon, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Now, I made some statements in the last one that I know people will find outrageous and outlandish, and I didn't really document it all that well, but today I'm going to explain just through some basic simple things how this is all right in your face. Like, it's not secret, it's not out there, it's not outlandish, it's spelled out in black and white a million times, and I'll explain it to you. Okay, let's take a look at, with all these things, it's all about words. It's all about words and terms. Again, hats off to Jordan Maxwell for pointing this out. It's all about words and terms. Okay, let's take Genesis and book of Genesis in the Bible, something everybody knows, something people all over this planet know about and have heard this myth. And so that in itself is telling you something, how powerful this book is. Okay, Bible, Buybull. If you're into the Bible, you buy bull. Get it? See, this is how their shit works. It's all about words, and they're hiding and showing at the same time. So okay, so Babel, just the word Babel, Babble, what does that mean? It means to speak nonsense, right? Makes sense. Okay, but let's look at this word in its ancient origins. Okay, so on the port city of the Babylonian Empire, in what would be modern day Lebanon roughly, there was a city called Byblos, Byblos. And we get Greek words like bibliodarion, which means a tiny scroll, right? So a scroll, it's a piece of paper with words printed on it, right? So that's one example. Now Byblos was so called, named after this particular green shoot of a reed that grew in that area, which we now call papyrus, which is where we get the word paper. So you see there, you've got the word for book, like biblioteca, bibliophile. It means someone who loves books, right? So Byblos is where these reeds grow, that grow papyrus, that the paper is made from, that all the bullshit, the Bible is printed on. Okay, so this was the port city of the Babylonian Empire. This is where all their shipping, piracy, and pimping prostitutes and, the Ishtars, the whores of Babylon, were sex trafficked like Epstein style all around the world 5,000 fucking years ago, probably more. Okay, so this was their pirate port city, Byblos, right? So, and the god Osiris in Egypt is green because he represents this papyrus reed that grows in the swamp, right? Swamp. Washington D.C. is built on a swamp. I mean, Babylon. Okay, so while we're on the topic, here's another little proof of one of my claims from yesterday, or I guess a circumstantial confirmation, you could call it. But if you go 13 blocks north from the White House, you get to this thing called House of the Temple, which is the supreme headquarters of all Freemasonry in the United States. House of the Temple. And what is this? It's a ziggurat. It's got a huge ziggurat on top of it, a step pyramid. And it's based on the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, which I could go into all that shit and why Albert Pike is buried underneath that shit, and why the whole thing is essentially a resonant chamber to amplify that dude's evil fucking spirit and keep it alive, and how it's super haunted. And people, if you go take the tour of it, the Masons will tell you this shit is fucking haunted by Albert Pike, dude. Anyway, side point. But why is this ancient ziggurat at the center of a giant upside down pentagram in Washington D.C.? Like, what is this all about? I'm not going to detail it all right now because there's a lot of videos and people have already gone depth into this, including me. But we see this connection from ancient Babylon into the present. So let's look at the word Byblos, Bible, right? You can break this down a bunch of ways. Like in ancient Hebrew, if you look at that word, it basically, the word having a B at the beginning of something is the word for house, or Beit in Hebrew. And it means, like, Beit Israel is the house of Israel. At any rate, Bel, Baal, B-A-A-L. This is a big thing in Masonry, okay, because Masonry is Babylonian religion. It's Kabbalah. There's another word that has the Bel, right? Kabbalah, which is, even Albert Pike spells out that there is no Masonry without Kabbalah. It is Kabbalah. That's what it is. But again, people identify Kabbalah with Judaism, but no, it's from Babylon, man. Word magic, number magic, right? So anyway, the house of Baal is Babel, right? The Tower of Babel. What is that? So that's this thing where they're building a giant ziggurat up to the sky so they can usurp the gods, right? So that's kind of an allegory for their astrology, basically. It's the tower to heaven measures the positions of the stars and foretells the future, because these planetary alignments and solar cycles and lunar cycles and galactic cycles predict cosmic scale energy events and micro scale events in individual lives of human beings according to these cycles of time and biorhythms. This is real. I don't care how. This is the oldest science on the planet. It's 5,000 fucking years of research and development. People want to pass it off like a pseudoscience, but all the richest people, most powerful people in the world are doing this to control everything because they know how the cycles work and you don't. They even created a fake system, which I call tropical astrology. I don't call it that, but that's what they call it. Tropical astrology is a bait and switch. The real astrology is sidereal. All the old systems use this. Chinese, Vedic astrology from the Hindus, you know, and the Babylonians used it, you know. But all these ancient, really more powerful systems that actually track the position of the stars and not just the seasons, you know. Tropical astrology has its function, but my point is the real heavyweights in this field all use the sidereal system. And so this modern system was created more or less like a decoy to distract people away from the real system. But anyway, either way, I've met tropical astrologers that are super effective, but it's because they studied super deep and got beyond, you know, the basic level stuff, and they got really deep into it. You can still, it's more for seasons, like the changing of seasons and all that thing. It works really good for that, and it's kind of made for that. But anyway, the point is, the Babylon cipher, this word. Okay, so what does this word mean? In the story of the Tower of Babel, they're building this giant tower to heaven to usurp the gods. And Yahweh, one of many gods, right? Hebrew and all this stuff is not monotheism. There's many gods. There's many gods. Even the book of Genesis right away tells you there's many gods. Again, Jordan Maxwell points this out very clearly, but if you read the Hebrew, it's super clear. It's not debatable at all. But all these Christians and people, it's complete mental illness, man. They're not even reading their own fucking book. They're living in all this made up shit that divides the Babylon cult into three systems that can all fight each other. And they don't realize they're all reading the same book, man. Nobody reads it anymore. No one speaks Greek and Hebrew. They don't have any fucking clue what's going on in there. It's all a coded system. But you know who knows is all the politicians, the popes, and the Freemasons with their Babylon cult, right? They know, and they're using it all to enslave everybody. But anyway, so what happens when the tower gets blasted by Yahweh? He says, he confuses everyone's language. And that's what the word Babel means. Babylon is the land of confusion. And it's a specific type of confusion where you mistake one thing for another. You can't discern and you can't tell the difference between these two things, right? It's like a decoy. It's a switcheroo. It's what I call a switcheroo. You know, there's a million examples of the switcheroo in the Bible itself. Okay, primary example is Abraham and Isaac. So he switches out the ram for his son as a human and animal sacrifice, right? And this is a super blatant fact that nobody can ignore. Christianity, Judaism, Islam are religions of human and animal sacrifice. There's no disputing that. What is Jesus Christ if not a human sacrifice? Ordained by God and blessed by God. He's like, I'm gonna kill my own son. This is legit. You should all imitate him as a human sacrifice. What more of a slave religion can you have than something where your hero is someone who's tortured to death and murdered by bankers? You know, and what that story is telling you, the message of Christianity is telling you, even if you're the son of God and you try to go against the bankers, you're going to get tortured and murdered to death. And that's why we're all enslaved to the bankers to this day. And all the Christians are going to church, giving 10% of their income to the Babylon church and saying, I worship a human sacrifice and I drink his blood and eat his flesh. How is that freedom and goodness and happiness and joy and love? It's not. It's human sacrifice cult. Your big hero was murdered and tortured to death by who? The Romans and the Jews. You're a white European playing Christianity? Oh my God, dude. The Middle Easterners came and decimated all your ancestors and all the priest castes of Europe and gave you a Middle East human sacrifice cult, and you're going to church and giving them 10% of all your income. You know who else gets 10%? Agents. Agents in Hollywood, who are, a lot of them are Jews, taking 10% of everything to sell you a whore of Babylon. And your church is no different. It's the same fucking thing, man. Get a life. Get to understand basics. You think the Bible is the most important book in the world, and yet you don't fucking read it. What the fuck? Like, are you serious with me right now? You're planning your whole life on this book that you don't read, and you definitely do not fucking understand. Okay? It's hard. It's a harsh truth to face. You know what I mean? But this is blatant facts in your face. Okay? So now we're gonna go back again and look at all this. Babylon, right? What does this mean? What is it all about? It's about a confusion of the tongues, where one language, which is the religion of Babylon, gets split up and divided into all these other languages so that they can't work together and figure out their common enemy. And so instead of toppling Babel and crushing the tower and making it all fall into the sea, and like the book of Revelation says, it's a slave empire. They're trafficking in the souls of men. You know, like some people have said, oh, well, gold and silver is the currency of the elites. And I'm like, no, the currency of the elites is human beings. Sex slaves, bro. Jeffrey Epstein, man. Think about it. That's what their currency is. And if you're out there paying tax and tithes and giving your money to fucking 700 Club and fucking Joel Osteen and these fuckers, you are supporting your own enslavement. And you're paying the tithes to the whore of Babylon. What's the whore of Babylon? Some people argue the first money in the world was invented by the Canaanites and Babylonians for the purpose of prostitution. That's why money exists. And if you look at money now, what is it? It's like you go work all day long. Like if you're like me, you do a dangerous ass job where you could kill yourself or break your bones and shit. You know, cripple yourself for life, putting yourself in danger to earn money. And then 10% or more, well, probably about 20% for most people, just off the top as income tax and stuff. That goes right to the whore of Babylon. You don't even touch it. It doesn't even come to you at any point to consider your income. It's like a form of voodoo, informed consent. You know, it's like they're pretending to give you something, but they're forcing you to extract this Babylon tax. You know what I mean? So you're supporting, you know, abortions and, you know, drone strikes on 15-year-old US citizens and stuff like that. That's what you're paying for, with your tax. And so then you go to buy shit. You want to buy food, you want to buy whatever it is. I mean, I guess food doesn't have sales tax, but in essence, it has all kinds of fees on top. Like whoever's shipping you your food has to pay all these fees to cross state lines and all that. So it's a Babylonian system of tax and prostitution. You're prostituting yourself, honestly, and that's what it's really about. And I mean, there's a lot better videos. Like in a short time, almost 15 minutes right now, I barely even scratched the surface. And if this topic, if you think there's any legitimacy to this whatsoever, go look into it. It's deep, and there's people that have explained it so much better than me already. But anyway, we're real short on time, so this is Babylon Cypher, how the cult of Babylon runs the world to this day. Think about it.